All right, well, we are doing something fun today. We are talking about DANK coffees, processed coffees. Very fun stuff, and I'm here with my friend Bill, who has recently started Hydrangea Coffee Roasters here in Berkeley, or Bay Area, California. But yeah, today we just have a variety of very processed coffees of many...
Highly processed.
Yeah, many different things have been done to these greens here, and then Bill roasted them, sample roasted them, and then we're just going to do a cupping of them. But part of what we want to do today is kind of start a conversation on these processed coffees, especially because these are polarizing. These coffees are incredibly polarizing, and they people really like them. Some people just absolutely hate them, and I thought it'd be fun to get someone who's actually a roaster to talk about these. But before we do that, let's talk a bit about Hydrangea, about you.
So I'm Bill. So Hydrangea is a 2-month-old baby. I guess 3 now. So I started Hydrangea because I wanted to drink better coffee during COVID, and I believe one way to get better quality coffee out of in my apartment is just started roasting. So I bought an Ikawa and I started roasting at Koreal on a smaller roaster, San Franciscan 1 pound, for about 6 months. And then I started roasting for a friend. I started roasting for a couple of friends. I don't hate wash. Right.
They're hard to taste.
Right. I had a. It was. So in one of the subs that I got, I had a 90+ yuzu. That was incredible. It tasted like sake. So that completely blew my mind about what processing can do to a coffee. So I always search for a coffee that has very interesting processing. And I'm an avid leaderboard player. I played every single season in leaderboard since season 3. And every season they try to put some dank coffee. They put like coffee with lager yeast, they put coffee with koji, they put coffee with fruits. So all that kind of stuff. And that's where it all got started. And yeah, so Hydrangea is kind of like my project to share really dank, weird coffee with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have some of the coffee here. This is the retail packaging, beautiful artwork, very representative of what the coffees actually taste like. But it's been very interesting to see recently a lot of focus on processed coffees. They are very polarizing. Personally speaking, I actually really only drink very nicely, lightly roasted, washed, clean coffees. But I've been coming around and actually very much enjoying these processed coffees, and simply because I think the nice thing about processed coffees is it can really show what coffee can be without you having like the best palate in the world. Like I just distinctly remember when I was starting out and trying to drink coffees, the bag says strawberries, and you taste it and you're like, this does not taste like strawberries at all. Today now we have these, this is a fruit processed coffee. This says juicy strawberry. You taste it, and I can give this to people who have, zero understanding, zero palate developed for coffee, and they're going to be able to taste strawberry. So to me, that's really fascinating because it's starting to shift people's perception of what coffee can taste like, and that's actually where I think processing is very interesting. Now, of course, there are like a lot of other conversations to have with on a producing end, which is like, now producers can have higher scoring coffee, so on and so forth. But I'm trying to approach this more from a consumer perspective, which is like, you can have these coffees that are processed and they actually taste very distinctively different to what you would normally expect out of coffees. Like, you don't need to have the best palate in the world to taste these. And that's why I like processed coffees.
So yeah, one of the mission for Hydrangea is to have a coffee that has a very distinctive tasting note, either if it's fruit infused or anything else, but the bag says a lot of it. All my illustration says a lot of what the coffee tastes like. You have a pretty good idea. So there are 3 main categories we are trying to cup today. So the first one is going to be infused coffee, so coffee with added vegetables or fruit. Let's say we have a chili infused coffee right here. So coffee with chili, double carbonic macerated.
Very illegal statement you just said there.
Right, completely World Worst Cup illegal, completely, yes. And then we have the strawberry's sister. We have grape right here. So grape is anaerobically fermented for about 30 hours with dehydrated grapes instead of strawberry. So that one literally tastes like grape haichu. It's incredibly creamy. It's currently on production, shameless plug. And then the second set of coffee we have is coffee with microbes added, like yeast and that kind of stuff. So we have a Koji Straight Bourbon from Granja from Approachability 92. We have a geisha that is thermal shock with lager yeast. The last set of coffee we have more traditional, more closer to traditional processed coffee, but a little bit more advanced. We have an anaerobic shade fermentation from Volcano Azul. Oh, we have a carbonic maceration washed coffee from El Salvador. It's a Sudan Rame varietal. So you can see a lot of these coffee has inspirations from the winemaking world, from the beer making world. Like carbonic maceration is a technique that winemakers has been using for hundreds of years. In the beer world, predominantly the type of yeast to use determines what type of beer you're brewing. If you have a lager yeast then you're brewing lager. If you have IPA yeast, you're brewing IPA. And then the fruit was more representative of the sour beers, the more unusual beer, because sour beers love beer makers like Rare Bros in Berkeley that I love going to, loves putting in fruits in their coffee as well. And then they age their beer in wine barrels. Right. We also have a rum barrel aged coffee in here today.
So as we can see, like there are a variety of processing techniques out there, like newer, I would say, processing techniques. Then we've taken it from all these other industries and we're now commercializing it and putting it into coffee. And consumers are now able to taste these types of processing methods. You know, I don't know if you have a take on controversialness of processing.
Oh,
so
hot
far.
takes.
Hot takes, yeah. What is a hot take?
All right, the hot take is that, everyone knows coffee originated from Ethiopia / South of Sudan, right? So technically terroir is also something man-made. People breed specific varietals out. People crossbreed, let's say Pacamara is Pacas and Margohipe, and Pacas come from the Bourbon family. So a lot of things is already pre-done to it. Like you chose to plant this coffee at this specific farm, at this specific elevation with this specific varietal to bring out specific set of characteristics. So take Panama Geisha, for example, incredibly floral, incredibly citrusy. And you take Brazil, for example, the Brazil terroir tend to taste more nutty. So there is the intention that, hey, I'm planting coffee here to get this tasting out of it. So with processing, it helps to make this much easier to get a flavor that you want. And people has been using yeast as beginner universe pretty much. Yeast is our best friend. Natural process, wash process all include some degree of fermentation. So this is just another variation on fermentation. And I label my coffee with 100% transparency on how it's processed. So if it's infused with grape, then I think as long as there's customers knows that, hey, this has grape added to it, then it should not come as a surprise that there are some grape flavor notes to it that complements the coffee really well.
Okay, well, let's get into trying some of these coffees out. We have them all side by side, but they smell
very
insane.
Different. Yes.
Yeah. So this is infused.
Yeah.
Let's do the grape first. So I don't drink that many processed coffees. Like this level of processing, wow.
Like grape haichu.
Oh, it does taste exactly like grape haichu. Like it punched me in the face so hard that I like almost spit it out there. Like, oh my god, that's like controversial right there.
It's very illegal.
Yeah, very illegal. Oh my
100%
god,
100% illegal.
Wow. I mean, it tastes really good, but it's just like, are we even drinking coffee at this point?
It's something a mitzvah. It's some Asian candy.
Is it Asian candy?
It's an Asian candy,
Mm-hmm.
and the brand is very Asian. We have Asian tasting notes on it.
Grape was definitely crazy. What should we move on to next?
If you want to go the infused route, you can try the chili. The chili is a lot mellower in terms of chili.
This one's a chili?
Yeah, this is the chili. Has too many commas because the processing name is too long. It's got a bell pepper taste.
There is 100% a bell pepper taste in there. I thought it would be a lot spicier,
right?
But the spice is actually pretty round. It's like you're cooking bell peppers like in here.
Cooked
like pretty much what you're tasting.
Like pepper soup.
Yeah, pepper soup. Try lager yeast now.
This one.
Let's go through all the weird ones, get tired of it, and
I thought this would taste a lot more processed, but
It's clean.
it's actually really, yeah, well, like relatively clean compared to the other ones I
Right.
tasted. The lager yeast here. Really tasty.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really clean.
Yeah, very clean.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, like yeast doesn't necessarily make it like.
Funky.
It's a thermal shock wash at the end of the day, right?
For those of you who are watching, right, you might be like, what does that even mean?
Thermal shock is a mysterious process done by specific farms in Colombia that is incredibly highly controversial because they refuse to be transparent about it. But basically what it does is they ferment coffee at different temperatures at different stages for hours. So for example, you can ferment coffee at 20 degrees Celsius water for about 16 hours and then switch to 40 degrees Celsius temperature at around and then add another like 70 hours to it. And then it gets dried in this circular dryer called Eco Enigma that nobody knows.
It's in the name.
It's in the name.
Enigma, yeah.
Yes, that nobody knows that has this incredible floral notes to it.
See, that's like the controversy stuff right there. Is like we
Right.
don't know what these guys are doing. Is that should that be allowed? Right. That's the complaint I think people have.
A really nice strawberry notes to it.
Oh, Koji's
Koji?
Koji is good.
Ooh,
And it's like not too.
it's like strawberry candy.
Yeah.
Very, very sweet.
It's actually not that much umami to this Koji.
Right. Yeah. Koji process is relatively new. It has gotten viral this year. So basically, you take the yeast that makes sake, which is koji, and you usually spread about a gram or two of koji yeast per kilogram of fresh coffee cherries, and then you let it ferment for usually somewhere in between 30 to 70 hours, and then you process it, and then you either dry it or you wash it out. You do a traditional process. And koji breaks down the protein and the sugar in coffee cherries differently than traditional wash because it's a different yeast. So it creates more amino acids, so it's more umami, and it creates all these interesting flavors that you can find.
Like I've tasted processed coffees before, and these are all a lot cleaner. Well, so far of what we've cupped, they're a lot cleaner than what I have experienced, and it's probably due to your roasting capability. You know, you're a good roaster, right?
Supposedly, allegedly. I try to source cleaner coffee.
Oh, so your target is actually washed, but
Process wash. No,
Process wash.
clean and
Clean.
infused and washed.
Because when I started coffee, I try to have my parents drink it. I try to have some of my friends drink it. A lot of people are thrown off by that funkiness. For example, the El Precio 720 is very funky for most people, and they prefer something cleaner. Everyone likes fruit juice.
This one's really good.
What is this?
That's a rum barrel.
Okay, there is an alcohol component, big alcohol component in this, but the finish on all of these have all just been pretty, like, relatively clean.
Much cleaner than you expect.
Yeah, nothing's kicking me in the mouth.
The whole goal is try to have really, really clean process. You can taste the processing. You know that the farmer's getting paid to slightly better than average, which is good. And you get to enjoy some very unusual coffee that you can't really find anywhere else.
I also think, like, palate calibration is definitely a thing. Like, that first grape one that I tasted, I, like, basically almost spit it out because it was, like, so much. Like, you just, like, aren't used to tasting those flavor notes. But if I take a step back and I'm like, I'm a normal guy, and you hand this to me and you tell me it tastes like grape haichu, and I tasted that literally tastes like grape haichu. But I, as like a coffee nerd, I'm like, because I've just drank so many wash coffees, like it takes me some time to like get used to drinking these types of coffees. This one's quite nice too, the Vulcanazole.
This is actually just gesha.
It's just normal gesha.
But like there's an additional kick to it though.
Yeah, it's like-
there's that kick. So
I think you've been drinking too much Panama gesha.
well, I like Panama Gesha, right? You know, with like the normal types of coffees that we enjoy, the cleaner processed versions just kind of amp everything up just a little. Like I would really say the very stark difference between these and a lot of these wash coffees is the acidity presentation and fruitiness. Whenever I drink very complex wash coffees, I kind of need to take a second to process what I have drank. Like I love right? I love like those types of coffees, but I taste them like, wow, these are beautiful, beautiful coffees. They're so complex, but then I need to like actually think about it. Like I have to use my brain and be like, oh, okay, this is what's happened from start to finish. It's so much easier to taste these. I don't need to be like, get into a certain mindset to taste them. And I think that's what's really fun about these coffees.
You don't need a flavor wheel.
Yeah, I don't need to be like, this is the first ring, second ring, third ring, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We're afraid of thinking about flavor notes, but also fun for the people who are able to think that way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You see the art on the
You
bag.
see the
yeah.
art on the
Very
website.
priming.
You don't have to like squint and like read the notes off the bag.
No.
You guys can figure these out by if you're blindfolded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could figure out a lot of these, I think, blindfolded. I can't even see any of the labels. Can you talk a little bit about these rum barrel aged coffees? I think I see this usually from Asian roaster. I mean, okay, you're an Asian roaster.
I am an Asian
But like, I see this from like Taiwan, China.
Rum barrel aged basically just takes. You can either take whole cherries or you can take green coffee, and you can quote unquote age in certain barrels. It could be like a Pinot barrel, it could be a rum barrel, it could be a whiskey barrel. And then, barrels, the barrels are charred and stored, alcohol for a couple of years in them. They are very, very aromatic. So slowly over time, the aromatics macerate and the alcohol macerates a little bit into the coffee itself to bring out a little bit more boozier notes to it. And it's a nice way to add additional flavors and complexities to coffee.
Carbonic maceration, CM, it's happening. What is that, and what's your take on it?
So I recently went to Europe and had a lot of incredible carbonic macerated wine. So that's where it all got started. So carbonic maceration is basically a process where you stack any kind of fruits on each other, but the sheer weight of the fruit on top will crush the cherries on the bottom, causing it to macerate. And you put carbonic dioxide in there to kill any aerobic microbes that you don't like that could potentially cause anything bad. That's why they do it in wine. So this causes cherries to macerate at different rates. The bottom one's going to macerate faster. The top one's going to macerate slower, and then eventually the whole weight of the cherry just crushes onto the bottom and creates this pool of coffee cherry mixture carbon dioxide. Since the fermentation is happening at different rates, this creates a very mellow, less funky version of natural. It's much cleaner.
And you still get that really nice fruit presentation, that kick in it. But it's cleaner usually, which is nice. But that's controversial, right? See, like these are the types of things which is like, I don't have a fully developed opinion on these processed coffees. What I am trying to show you all is actually a variety of perspectives on processing. We have our pro-processing guy, Bill, here, but we'll shift to a different, we'll shift to the other side as well, and we'll show off those types of opinions. But this is what's fun for me as a coffee consumer. It's like, look, there's so many different approaches to coffee from a producing level, and really like that is very much showcased from a roasting level to you guys as consumers. Is like I've tasted some of these super processed coffees where I'm like, I literally cannot tell if this is a Gesha, is this a Castillo, is this a Typica, because all you taste is processed. Obviously, like you can tell like slight differences, but like I'm saying is the most apparent thing is like the processing, and that is, that like makes people think it's like fake, right? Like, I don't know. What is your take on that?
It's nice to plant. So geisha is notorious for being incredibly painstaking to maintain. It does not produce as much, and it requires more shading trees, and it requires more tree spacing, and that's what makes geisha expensive. And instead, you could use a Castillo that you can plant at lower elevation because global warming is a thing. If you can use if you can use an easier to maintain crop to produce the same quality cup, I think that's incredible for the whole industry as a whole. And this happens to corn. This happens to all the major grains on the market. At some point.
You like this rum barrel? You think you could drink this rum barrel every day?
Yeah, I like this one, this gummy one.
I like the koji.
The koji is really nice.
Koji is really good. Yeah, but like that's the thing is, coffee there's a ton of personal preference in coffee, even among home enthusiasts and industry people, of course. But like, for me, I'm like, I think these are the coffees that I take out when I want to have fun. Like these are so fun. I have my comfort coffees, which are these like nice, cleanly processed,
Major Ds.
washed. Well, yeah, major D's maybe, but cleanly processed wash coffees. Beautiful, lightly roasted, high acidity, floral, whatever coffees. Like those I can daily drink, but sometimes I want to have fun, and I think these represent fun for me. Is like I love that you can taste these different properties in these cups, and like that to me is why I like processing. It is controversial, which is the interesting thing. Like I don't know, I'm learning about all this stuff.
I bring these to a party. These are like party tricks.
Yeah.
I definitely do use these as party tricks.
It's easy to, if you have anyone to meet up to, and if you want to introduce someone to coffee, these are much easier to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of times you show someone good coffee, they're like, I can't tell.
And then you have to spend an hour backtracking with like, this is not the standard. There's all this like considerations.
Right. Yeah.
And now you're like, you taste the grape? Yeah, that's coffee now.
I like that these make coffee more interesting, more palatable, I would say, more approachable to a lot of people. Like, because these coffees aren't necessarily cheap either. Like, for me, I'm like, I want everything to be, like, I want people to pay more money. I want people to recognize that coffee's valuable, all that stuff, right? And, like, I think these are actually a really interesting gateway into understanding that, which is like, wow, you can have coffee that does taste like what the flavor notes on the bag are. You don't need to have, like, understanding or underlying palate developed for coffee. So, like, I don't know. That's probably a controversial statement there too.
These are really, really long fermentations. So, usually like 200 plus hours considered long in the coffee world for fermentation. There's this one right here has been fermented for 720 hours. It's geisha.
Diego Bermudez, El Preso.
Yeah, okay. And then here's a Tipica that is double that. So everyone has been trying to one-up each other in terms of fermentation time. So there's now 1440. I have no idea when 2880 is going to show up. It probably will show up one day as a result of this contest.
It'll take at least 120 days.
Yeah, we won't know. Maybe someone's currently doing it. But
someone's probably doing it.
So I have a distinctive memory of Diego 720. I've had Diego 720 three or four times now from a variety of roasters. And this was my first experience with those 200, 300, 400 hour plus fermentations. And the one thing that I've observed with these coffees is visually, they just, like, you can't tell by color anymore. We don't know anymore, I feel like. And the second thing is that there's a distinctive smell with them where it's like, yeah, like specifically teriyaki beef jerky. And then when you grind it, so we have a ground sample, it smells really sweet, but I'm pretty sure when we add water, we're gonna get that Parmesan cheese crisp.
Yes.
Parmesan cheese crisp, like very specifically. The other aspects, like aromatics and visuals, are like, I would personally feel like a negative with these. Right. The taste of it is very fascinating, though. I distinctly remember I had a few Diego, these Diego 720s, and they're just so sweet. They're like probably some of the sweetest, like stevia, like eugenioides types of sweetness. And there's acidity, there's complexity in them, but the aromatics and the brewing experience is terrible in my opinion. But that's like the baseline for 720. When we move to 1440, I am looking at this, and this isn't a Diego Bermudez coffee. This is a Wilton Benitez one, which I think Wilton learned from Diego, so it's probably similar. Don't know, but these ones are also dark. Like we can't tell based on the colors at all of what these are, but like, well. Dang.
Yes.
That is
like dark, like really, really dark miso, like your dark Chinese soy sauce.
Like, yeah, there's definitely that soy sauce characteristic.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
that's crazy. The 1440 seems to be way more savory, like cooking ingredients now, which is wild.
Yeah,
wow.
Presumably the sugar and the protein has completely been broken down to just amino acid, and that's how you get the umaminess and the savoriness, because people usually associate savoriness with that amino acid, and that's presumably why this makes these coffees so dark as well.
But it's still like a light roast. It's
Right.
just visually very dark. And then you had the 720 on the site, and you had a soy sauce characteristic, like the soy sauce art.
Right.
The soy sauce bottle art, which is super funny. So were these basically roasted to the same type of profile?
Right.
Or? Okay.
It's roasted on the same profile to Ikawa, basically the same drop temperature.
Oh, shit.
More hours, more dark.
Like, it visually looks so much darker.
But they're like, this
But
is
there's-
variety, right? So it's
Right, different. So, we can't tell, but it like, it looks like a dark roast, but it's not, it's definitely not
That's
as
the
dark.
upcoming koji.
Oh my god.
There's
cute though.
oh.
I have a perception in my head of like this is going to be absurdly sweet. It's probably going to be like watermelon candies, just because every single Diego 720 that I've tried from like 3 different roasters kind of tastes the same. But let's try this guy out. Okay. Yeah. Get that like watermelon, very sweet. It's like Jolly Rancher basically.
Yeah.
Sugar. Slight weird fermentiness at the end there. This is a coffee that tastes really good, but I think like the other aspects of it, like brewing, grinding, adding water onto it, like brewing this coffee is like not a fun experience in my opinion. But the tasting is great. Now, 1440. I'm not sure. I don't know how to.
All right.
1440. Wow. What is this? Dude, what is this?
The Typica, but it's not. So it's like not a Gesha, not the proper Diego.
Like, it kind of tastes like dirt or like Sharpies, like when you smell Sharpies. There is a big amount of savoriness, very earthy, earthy umami savory. Tastes like sauce, tastes like Asian sauces. Like that, I just don't know. Like I don't know how this makes me feel. Like 720 I can put up with because 720 tastes good, really good. Everything else about 720 I'm not a big fan of 720, but this is like not sure. Also, like when we added water over this, it has like this earthiness and savoriness that you could smell, but it doesn't change. Like that is also found in the cup. The 720 tastes so much different than smelling and brewing. So I don't know. What was your experience with 1440 here?
I don't know. Maybe it's a varietal. Maybe it's a processing, or maybe that like the sugar and whatnot has been completely depleted. That people just the yeast will just start to die. Presumably, maybe. This is what happens when you, for example, dry age a steak for way too long. That it has like unpleasant flavors of blue cheese creeps up. This happens to some cheese as well. If you age your cheese for too long, it dries out.
Yeah, because like the beans are so dark and they're starting to sweat too. But like this is definitely not like roast sweat from roasting dark either. The beans also just feel like
Very flimsy.
Yeah, like everything's been taken out of them. They're so like they don't feel like normal beans. At least the 720s still like feel like they have some heft to them. They're intact, but like these just are like gone. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of 1440. Maybe it's the varietal that we're tasting here. There's probably a diminishing returns. Like someone probably has like a 960. I know someone has like 1,000 just because it's fun to put 1,000 on there. But like I think 720 seems to be that sweet spot before everything starts to go downhill. I don't know. That was the world of processed coffees. We're trying to show off more and more of this. Like I want to kind of create a discussion on processed coffees, and I really want to thank someone like Bill who roasts these coffees, who deals with these coffees, to tell us about his opinions and perspectives on these coffees. But please check out hydrangea.coffee. That's the website. There is a code here. We will put it on the screen for a discount somewhere, just because I want you guys to check out his coffees. I really, really love the artwork on the bags, and they're just representative of what you're going to be able to taste. And honestly, like, you're selling these coffees for like way too cheap, and you should, yeah, like, these are just like a great value, okay, to taste these coffees. Eventually we're gonna do a big video. We're gonna go to Koro where he roasts. We're gonna film him roasting. We're gonna show off the whole process and all of that. It's gonna be a lot of fun, but I wanted to kick off all of this by showing, just, you know, starting off a discussion on these coffees with someone who is very familiar with them. So I want to thank Bill here from Hydrangea to, you know, come by, show us these coffees, cup with us, and yeah. That's the video. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian.
Nice. Wow.